Hi, this is Hank reporting from Kyiv, and this is my update on Russian-Ukrainian war. Let's see what happened over the last 24 hours. Situation in Kharkiv region. The biggest military aid package from Great Britain. Russian oil depot destroyed. Germany buys 3 HIMARS for Ukraine. Pentagon and SpaceX block Russian Starlinks. Security guarantees for Ukraine. According to media sources, the Russian army is located approximately 30 kilometers from Kharkiv. There are battles in the border area, artillery is working, but it is still far from the city. Groups of diversionists try to enter from different directions, but they don't succeed. The gray zone has been stabilized, our fortifications are in place, the defenders repel the invaders. In total, there are about 50,000 Russian soldiers concentrated in this area, and this number is not enough to gain a strategic advantage and capture the huge city of Kharkiv, the second largest city in Ukraine. This so-called big offensive, which was dispersed by propagandists, is nothing more than a distraction and attempt to pull Ukrainian forces to the northern border away from the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, where the main battles are taking place right now. There is another very important point in this event. Russians are in a hurry with this offensive, firstly to get at least some semblance of progress, and secondly they understand that the chances of any significant success melts away before the arrival of military assistance from our allies. As you understand, any Russian war means increased losses, so it will be. The UK today announced its largest military aid package to date for Ukraine, worth approximately $625 million US, which includes a lot of interesting things. More than 1,600 missiles. I wonder what kind of missiles there will be. Storm Shadow is very effective in Ukraine. 400 units of armored vehicles, including 160 Husky trucks, which have already shown themselves well on the battlefield. 4 million rounds. That's great, combined with the large aid package announced yesterday from the United States, which included Bradley's M113s and RAPs. This will be an excellent addition and will help our soldiers not only hold their positions, but I believe to carry out attacks under favorable circumstances. Once again, I want to emphasize that the UK and the USA do not give money to Ukraine out of kindness, but transfer equipment that they produced in their countries and paid salaries and taxes for it. At the state level, gear production is valued differently than when you go to a store to buy something. I'm very grateful for this help, and I hope we will strengthen our cooperation on mutually beneficial terms in the future. Ukrainians don't want to be a burden, we want our independence. Our favorite column, the destruction of the Russian oil infrastructure, continues. Last night, in the territory of the occupied Lugansk region, an oil depot was picturesquely burning. It is said that there is no longer any possibility of refueling Russian military equipment there. Great job! I'll say it again, every destroyed gas station means that tanks and armored vehicles will not reach the front. Every oil refinery station destroyed means that Russians will not be able to sell gasoline abroad and earn dollars. But this does not mean that there will be less gasoline in the world. It just means that Russians will be able to sell only crude oil, which other countries can easily turn into gasoline, and surprise, it will cost less than buying ready-made gasoline from Russians. In short, give us more long-range missiles and gasoline will become cheaper. Minister of Defense of Germany Boris Pistorius said they have made a deal with the US government for the urgent purchase of 3 HIMARS systems for Ukraine. Why is this important when we already have about 40 such systems? And by the way, we lost only 1 in 2 years of war, despite Russian fairy tales about hundreds of destroyed HIMARSes. The data is accurate because the US can track all of the available systems and understand exactly what condition they are in. The sale of 3 units is the first time in history that they are supplied to Ukraine by a third country, not the United States. The exact reason for this deal and what will be on the list is unknown. According to my estimates, out of $30 million, about $10 million will be the HIMARSes themselves, and $20 million will be the stock of missiles for them. And there are different types of ATACMS on the menu, and it seems that we haven't tried them all yet. I assume that if we already have almost 40 systems, then perhaps this 3 will be used with some special missiles. Let's wait and see. The head of the Space Policy Department of the US Ministry of Defense, John Plum, said that together with Elon Musk's SpaceX company, they are countering the use of Starlink terminals by Russians. As far as I know, a few months earlier, Russians began to actively use Starlink terminals purchased in third countries, including the Emirates, and registered to residents of European countries. And the management of SpaceX in every possible way denied that this was even possible. Mr. Plum said they have been successful in limiting the use of such great terminals by Russians. Minister of Digital Transformation of Ukraine, Mikhailo Fedorov, also said that they have found a way to limit such use. Well, I hope that the entire civilized world will unite in this large-scale education lesson for barbarians and limit the access of Russians to any high technology until they transform their worldview and learn to live in peace with the others. The European Union has agreed on security guarantees for Ukraine, providing political, military and economic assistance to the country, which has been subjected to an armed aggression from Russia, says Welt am Sonntag, which has at its disposal a draft document agreed at the level of EU ambassadors, reported today. At the moment, this document is already at the final stage and will soon be officially adopted. These security guarantees will be valid for Ukraine until the moment when we become official member of the European Union and the NATO alliance. The European Union guarantees consultations while indirectly excluding the participation of its soldiers in the conflict. But at the same time, Brussels promises the supply of weapons, training of soldiers, assistance in reforming security forces, demining areas, and cooperation in repelling hybrid threats and cyber attacks. I understand that all this time the European Union and NATO are trying to do the splits between helping Ukraine and not angering Russia. This is very sad because by showing weakness and reluctance to conflict, you simply provoke Putin. He only understands power. Russians have an expression, if they are afraid, it means they respect. This very accurately describes how they see the world. Yes, it's a twisted picture, but you need to understand their way of thinking to know their motives and how to deal with them. I will remind you of an old case from 2015 when Russian pilots violated Turkish airspace and a Turkish F-16 shot down a Russian pilot after 10 warnings on the radio. After this incident, Putin signed a law restricting tourism and trade with Turkey and refused telephone conversations with Erdogan. After this, Russian warplanes no longer played with the Turkish air defense. I'll link to an article about this case below this video if you're interested in reading more about it. These were the most interesting news from Ukraine for the day number 808 of the full-scale Russian invasion. Thank you everyone who supports our fight for freedom, and take care.